welcome to the Comes Together Hub podcast. Today I'm with
Angela
and Richard.
And we're going to be doing a podcast on self-esteem in recovery and either the lack of it or how we became to loving ourselves again, I suppose. Do you want me to go first, guys?
Yeah, go
on. With me, I thought I had a lot of self-esteem. I thought I was pretty okay until I stopped taking the drugs. Do you know what I mean? I thought I was alright. I could speak to people when I was on the drugs. I could, go out places. I could do stuff. And it was only when I came off the drugs, it was like, I feared going out. I feared being around people. I didn't know what to say. I didn't know how to act. I didn't even know how to hold myself, my body and everything. Everything was just overthinking in my head about my actions and my ways and everything. And it was difficult when I first come in coping with all that and the lack of drugs. Like just talking to people. I couldn't speak to people, like hold a conversation properly, and things like that. And I just think the more I've done with NA and stuff and my step work and things like that, and it's given me a more stable, look at myself, do you know what I mean, and a more stable way of looking at myself and way of behaving, and it's just come naturally, I think, through the steps. Like I started obviously they say speak to your sponsor and having people around you helps, and I was always one for struggling to have people around me. It was like I thought I could do things on my own all the time, but the more I did with other people, the more I became out of myself, and I was okay, being around people, but it's still hard because I'm not used to being that way without drugs, and I think I overthink things too much as well. I think that's what it is. But my self-esteem in other ways where I think I've got a bit of a future and I'm doing more things like college courses and stuff like that. Do you know what I mean? It's helping my mental state, which in turn I think helps your physical state, doesn't it? Like they say, if you take the body, the brain will follow, and I think it's the opposite as well. If you keep your mind busy, your body will follow as well, you know what I mean? So what's your thoughts on it?
On self-esteem, well, looking back on my life now, I've never really had any self-esteem or confidence. I've always been within myself, and I've been in relationships and stuff like that, and I've just let them treat me like a doormat, and you know what I mean, because I've just wanted to be loved and liked, and
like people please in a way, but
that's all I've ever been, do you know what I mean? And I've just put up with it, and I've even when I've been in relationships and I knew they weren't right for me, and I've stayed with them because I didn't feel strong enough to be on my own and things like that. But then later on in life, when obviously I've always took drugs, some form of drugs, but it's just progressed as time's gone on, and then towards the end of me using the cocaine did give me that confidence, do you know what I mean? And I could mix with anyone then. I could. It's I didn't care then. Do you know what I mean? And then coming into recovery, and that it was I was back to where I was before. With no confidence. I couldn't lift my head up, and I didn't think I was worthy, and I thought people wouldn't like me and they'd judge me and.
Yeah, and I think that's something we all go through in that first stages of recovery. The first meeting, I remember the first meeting, I was nervous as anything. I just burst out crying. I was just sat there crying. It was my sponsor now who came over with me and sat through all meeting with me, just held my hand, and I was just sobbing because I knew it was the place to be, but I knew why I was there. Do you know what I mean? I knew that I'd fucked my life up, and with drugs and everything else, but I didn't know when I was there, and I didn't know what to expect as well. And like I say, I thought I had confidence, but looking back now in recovery, all through my childhood, I never had confidence and was always feeling less than everybody and never felt good enough, even for my own parents, you know what I mean? What's your experience with it, Richard?
Well, I was very shy when I was a small child. I was a late developer. I had measles when I was about 18 months, and it put me back in my development. I was walking. I'd already started walking, and then I had the measles. There wasn't a vaccine in those days. My dad had been too young then even for a vaccine now, and my parents had told I might die or with brain damage. It was really serious. I had to learn to walk again, and that affected my development throughout my childhood. So I was always small, one of the smallest in the class, and I was quite shy, especially going to other people's houses and things like that. And I got more confident anyway in my teens, and I took up acting, which was a big help. But of course, in acting, you're playing the role of somebody else.
Yeah.
So a lot of actors are quite shy people.
Yeah.
Then I got into radio, which people think, oh, must have loads of confidence in radio. A lot of people in radio are actually quite shy if you meet them face to face, because you don't see the audience. It could be millions listening. You don't see them unless you're doing an outside broadcast, as we call it. But anyway, all my confidence went when I got my depression. And I couldn't talk to people, I couldn't go anywhere, I wouldn't even go to the local coffee shop in the garden centre after the first time I was sectioned. And I was really just withdrew into my own little world and wasn't mixing with anybody. I wouldn't even talk to my son at one stage. I was that, withdrawn. And gradually, when after I came out of hospital this last time, I had workers with me all the time. And when you met Rebecca,
Rebecca was lovely.
She said, "Oh, we'll go to this meeting." So she came with me to the first few times I went to any group, just there for support, or we went shopping or whatever with another team, from the council team. And I just gradually got my confidence back. And now I'm thinking I'm going on Saturday. I've joined a meetup, if you know about it, and it's like you go online and you find groups. And they've got a thing in the Baltic in Liverpool, and I thought, I'll go along, and what's the worst that can happen now? I might meet a few people that I like. I love you guys the most.
And it's lovely to see you, because like when you first came, and it must have been difficult for walking, because like obviously some of us knew each other from, our own groups, didn't we, and stuff like that, and obviously because you don't attend those groups, it must have been difficult for you to come in, but you fitted in so well. It's
we're an odd bunch, but we all
and I think that's what it is, because it's like, I think throughout our drug use, we've all had our confidence knocked out of us in some way, whether that's with the drugs or, mental health conditions or, different issues that have caused us to think less of ourselves.
Well, I used the mental health service, when I was using drugs.
And I think that's the good thing, about, the different mix of people gives us so many different variations of opinions on different things and solutions for them. I think that's the good thing about it. But it's just like initially, we've all come from, the similar
different
things.
Walks of life,
but we've all had the same issue. We've all never fitted in, and always felt a back seat,
But I think everybody feels like that. Everybody else thinks everybody else is all right. And they're the odd ones out. And then, because I said this to one of my school friends, and I said, I was the one that, I used to say to me, I wasn't the one that wasn't normal, in the group. And he said, no, you were fine. I was the one that wasn't normal. So
that's it. Looking at somebody on the outside is never really what's going on in the inside, is it? A lot of the time. And I think that's what we don't realise until we all get together and talk about it.
And you think they're thinking about you, and they're not, because it's far too interested in themselves. It's like my wife got self-conscious about going on the beach. I said, they're not, looking at you most of the time, unless you're an Adonis, standing beauty. People are just getting on with their own lives. They don't care.
That's what my mum always says to me. She said, you're just like a tiny dot in this world. Not everything revolves around you. You're not that important. Do you know what I mean? People just get on with their lives, don't they?
And I think that's the good thing about coming to groups like this, where we can see different walks of life and different ways of people coming through things. But anyway, we'll leave that for this week, and thanks for watching, and please like, subscribe and share.